carpet. And because if I go off the carpet, then it goes out of the zone there. So those of you who are watching on YouTube, those of you who are watching on Facebook, welcome to Impact Church Bridgewater and the city of Bridgewater, City of God. And so we're excited about that. Forget the town. We are a city because we're growing internationally. And the only person missing in this entire city is you. So be like everybody else and move away from where you are and come on and visit us at Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. I didn't say Lunenburg, Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. We're on the map, for sure. So last week we talked a little bit about believe the I am says I can. And today I want to give you just a little bit of a recap, but I want to give you some practical stuff. Are you ready for some practical stuff? Just some practical stuff. I'm not going to do a whole lot of screaming, barking, yelling, spitting, preaching. I want to give you some practical stuff that you guys can take home. And so the key verse really was in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And I love Matthew 17:20 where it says, I tell you the truth, that if you have the faith of a mustard seed, nothing will be impossible for you. And I love the whole thing about a mustard seed because it's even smaller than a seed. You can hardly even pick up a mustard seed, but if that mustard seed is planted in the right ground, then it really becomes greater than any other herbal seed around, and the branches are huge, and people can come under the branch or under the canopy of a mustard seed. And I love that because how many know in this region, then people need to feel safe under the shadow of the mustard seed, under Impact Church. And that's, I think, one of the reasons that they're coming. I had a guy come into the dealership this week, and he said, hey, I'm so-and-so, and do you remember me? I'm like, sure. You know, and so he came in and he said, I just want to let you know that, and he had visited one time, but I couldn't remember who it was, but he said, man, you guys have something special at Impact Church that is not around the area. And I didn't want to go toot toot, but inside I was going toot toot. You know, I was really excited about that because it doesn't negate anything that any other church is doing. Hear me and hear me really good. Because everybody is in their zone. They're in their element. They're doing what they're called to do. But we're doing what we're called to do, and that's allow people to come in freedom and worship the Lord without feeling intimidated, without feeling anybody looking at them, without feeling like, oh, you're raising your hand. You're not raising your hand. You're standing or you're sitting or whatever the case may be. And those who are visiting, I just basically explained that we are like a can of Planters mixed nuts. Right? So if you want straight cashews, there's a church of cashews. If you want a church of peanuts, there's a church of plain old peanuts. And there's some without salt. And there's the bland cashews and whatnot. And that's all fine and dandy because they're all part of the same kingdom. They're all part of the same can. They're all part of the kingdom. The kingdom of God. Kingdom of God. Right? What? That wasn't that funny. It just came across that way. And so we're like a can of Planters mixed nuts. And I love that because now we have international and now we're growing and now it's authentic and now it's genuine and now it's real. And I kind of have a funny feeling that people feel comfortable in a can of Planters mixed nuts because they don't have to prove anything to anybody. They can just be who they want to be. Amen? And so Jesus says that I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And I was thinking about this week and I said, every major move of God, both past, present, and future, all began with a step of faith in the direction of fear. Every major move of God, past, present, and future, all began with a major step of faith in the direction of fear. How many have ever had God tell you to do something, or you felt that God was telling you to do something, and you shook in your boots? And you're like, there's no way, it's not going to happen. I don't know if that's you or if that's the pizza, but I don't know what it is. And we've gone through that ourselves many, many times when we decided years ago to go on the road and to go full-time in ministry. To this day, I look back and I'm like, how did we do that? How do we had a semi-truck on the road, we had a 3,000-seat crusade that would fill every bit of that property out there. It was ginormous. And trucks and buses and 14,000-watt sound systems that people would hear a mile away. Because when you're preaching outside, how many you want the people who won't come to church and sit on their porch and they'll want to hear that. And you think, well, did that actually happen? It did. We were in Mount Bridges, Ontario, and I heard this, and we were doing our outreach there, and the sound system was just boom. And I love boom. It was so cool. Not that I need to hear my voice, but the next day, I was walking on my bike down Park House in Mount Bridges, and a guy came over and he said, I heard you yesterday. I said, you did. Did you come down to our block party? He said, no, I didn't come down to the block party. The block party came to me. I said, what are you talking about? He said, when I was on my porch 2 miles away, I heard every single word you said. I'm like, thank God for a 14,000 watt sound system, not like this that only works on one side. My gosh. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And when God told us to do that, man, we were shaking in our boots because we're like, how is that going to happen? When we decided to raise our kids on the road, how is that going to... You try doing that with traffic. Raising your kids on the road. My gosh, that's kind of crazy. And it got dark in here because the lights ain't on. What things are we doing now that we could not do before? What is your mind telling your heart that is impossible? What are you doing today that was impossible for you yesterday? Because when you have the faith of a mustard seed and you begin to activate that faith, faith is stepping out on nothing and believing you're going to land on something. Faith is stepping out on the diving board of faith and somebody chops off the tree and you're still going out on a limb for God suspended in midair. What is your faith telling you to do? What is it that God told you to do that for whatever reason, it never happened because you were so worried about what people were going to think and what they were going to say? Here's what we do in here. That God wants us to do something supernaturally awesome. Marvin Gaye. Some of you remember Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell's, they sang a song, Ain't No Mountain High Enough. I'm sorry. I'll do a spiritual. Hallelujah. Ain't no mountain high enough, brother, to keep me from getting to you, babe. Y'all remember that song? Ain't no mountain high enough to keep me from getting to you, babe. See, mountains, what? It wasn't that bad, my gosh. Down in front. Mountains have always long represented problems. What's the problem? What's the obstacle? Crosses to be bared, burdens to be borne, troubles to be triumphed over, difficulties to be dealt with. But how many know today that mountains for God are nothing but speed bumps? Amen. Mountains for God are nothing but speed bumps. General Hannibal, some of you might never know General Hannibal. Actually, go to the next slide because this was John Wesley's rule of conduct. I think we have it there. There you go. John Wesley's rule of conduct. Remember, do all the good you can, in all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, and all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. You can what? Do all things through Christ that strengthens you. I love this phrase, don't you? But how many know, as I said it last week, the only way that happens is when we get off our can. Because we can pray till the cows come home, but when we get off our can and pray, and we walk and pray, we do and pray, it's amazing because we put our faith in action. And it's amazing seeing what God begins to do. But General Hannibal, you probably remember the story of this African general by the name of Hannibal. And he was crossing over the Alps and the great mountains within Italy. And in this little story, I can remember the pictures of the elephants and the donkeys and the army of the African Hannibal crossing the Alps of Italy. And this was indeed a great feat of military strategy. In fact, it was one of the greatest acts of military courage in human history. I love this story. There was a story that went along with the various pictures in this book. And according to the story, it said that Hannibal, when he got to the Alps with his army and was about to cross over, his army began to rebel. They began to look at the obstacles. They were afraid. And the soldiers saw these gigantic mountains before them. And they saw this incredible barrier in front of them. And they were so afraid to move that they were ready to turn back. But there's the elephant. And there's Hannibal. And Hannibal looked at the mountains, and all he said was, "Forward march! We see no Alps! We see no mountains!" What a mighty step of faith that was. And it's exciting when he began to see that. And then with these words of encouragement, the army of Hannibal went forth over the mountains and into Italy. I don't know what you're facing this week. But sometimes we have to make a declaration of faith that says, I don't care what the obstacles are. Doesn't matter what the mountains are. I might see a mountain, but God sees a bump. I might see the mountains, but God sees a little speed bump. And if God sees a little speed bump, He says that you can get over that little speed bump. Whatever the mountains are. Forward march, I see no mountains. Forward march, I don't see the obstacle. I don't see that hardship. Forward march, I don't see that sickness. Forward march, I don't see your cheating. Forward march, I don't see your lying. Forward march, I don't see your accusations and your threats and your adversity. Forward march in faith. God will take you over whatever mountain that He has, that the enemy puts in front of you. It doesn't matter, because you're activating your faith. Well, what does that have to do with Scripture? You'll find out. Because faith might change the inner landscape. And it can change the inner landscape. And if the inner landscape has been changed, it doesn't matter what's on the outer horizon. It doesn't matter what you're facing, guys. That with God all things are not possible. With God all things are possible. I like to say that with God all things are Him possible. All things are Him possible. And all the Nigerians said, Amen! Have to work with these quiet people over here. Maybe you might remember the words of this great song by Joe Darian. You remember this one? To dream. Thank you, Dan. I hear it, brother. Sing it to me one more time. To dream the impossible dream. To fight the unbeatable foe. To bear with unbearable sorrow. To run where the brave dare not go, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star. Work with me. You're leaving me alone up here. You don't know the words I'm cheating because I have them myself. To fight the right, the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to run when the brave do not go, to reach the unreachable star, to dream the impossible dream. Because the dreams that have never been dreamt are the dreams that have never come true are the dreams that have never been dreamt. Amen. I had somebody tell me one time, oh, you're just a dreamer. Amen. I said, thank you. You're just a nightmare. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. And until we make a decision that we will not go back or look back, regardless of how painful it gets, regardless of the criticism and the religious critics, will not go forward with a force of faith that will allow us to fulfill our destiny. So true. Luke 9:62 says, no one, after putting his hand to the plow and looking back, is even fit for the kingdom. Listen to this. True faith is not blind optimism. That kind of optimism is just one more intellectual assessment masquerading itself as true faith. All the intellectual people say. And all the non-intellectual people say. That kind of optimism is just one more intellectual assessment masquerading itself as true faith. Because there's a lot of people who just have faith in faith. They have faith in their tradition. They have faith in what they've known. And how many know just belief in itself is not changing, is not going to really change anybody's life. I can believe that there's God, but it doesn't mean I'm going to serve Him. People say, oh, I believe in God. Really? Good fool me. So it's not just a matter of belief. It's putting our faith in action. And I want you to listen to me very carefully as I was putting all this kind of crazy stuff together. Humanistic optimism will wither in the heat of a desert wilderness, while true faith will become stronger and more determined each time it is exposed to the heat of fiery trials. Every time your faith is challenged and you become successful, then it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So it doesn't matter anymore what the devil puts in front of you. Your attitude is, seriously? That's the best you can do? Later. Because those who attempt the impossible by having faith in themselves is only just another form of self-centeredness and ego-gazing. Look what I did. When we get to the point where when everything that we do is based around our results, look what we've done, look what we've accomplished and all that, then guess what? Every time you boast about that, that's your reward and there's nothing there. Amen. It is. Look what we've done. Great, there's your reward. You want the applause of man or you want the applause of God? You choose. I'll take God every day. So we've got to look past the opposition. We have to look past the antagonism, the difference, the obstructions, the resistance, excuses, and all the defiance. Because Peter and I, we went out yesterday and we bought this tent for the band. And it was like a 16 by 32 or 26-foot tent with more poles than Poland. I mean, it was crazy, all the poles that were there. And we were talking to this guy out in this lake, and we were driving out the lake nowhere. Wherever it was lake nowhere out in somewhere where there was a gravel road, but it was the most beautiful lake. It was just so awesome to drive out to like Chelsea-ish way, out there somewhere. And it was so cool. And just having the chance just to, I don't know, what would you call it? We just had a time to optimistically love on this guy. And we were just telling him, he was saying, I can't remember everything, but he was saying something about family. Wasn't he mentioning something about family and communion and fellowship? And you said something that was so awesome. You said that religion put Jesus on the cross. And I never quite heard it put quite like that. And I knew what God's mission was. I knew what Jesus' mission was, but I knew the people of the day, that they were so bound in all their traditions that they didn't even recognize who he was. And it was religion that put him on the cross. And it was God's grace and God's love for human mankind that got him off. Because he looked below the surface and beyond the obvious, and he saw something in the future of humanity that nobody else could see right then. And how many know God does that for us? He looks beyond where we are, below where we are, and he looks into the city of Bridgewater, Lunenburg, and the surrounding areas, and he sees what it can become, not exactly what it is right now. That's the goodness of God. That's the grace of God. Amen. I don't know what your faith allows you to see. For some, it has to go beyond the tip of your nose. Because sometimes our faith is just right here, because all our faith is what we can see currently, not what God sees. God sees in the future, man sees in the now. Oh, okay. So I wrote this, and I was thinking the South, wrote this morning. I said the South Shore is looking for, and y'all from here, help me out. I'm just kind of adopted in here by, you don't have no choice really, but I'm kind of here now, and I'm actually learning to talk weird. So it's I've been accused of that. I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're becoming a bulldozer.
Deliverance in Jesus' name. I mean, I found myself saying the loin instead of the line. I'm like, oh my gosh, get in the loin. I'm like, what? No, get in the line. Stop that. Be delivered. But I'm sweating. But I said the South Shore is looking for family. Help me out. Maybe a shout each time if you agree. But the South Shore is looking for family, community, fellowship, authenticity, and they're tired of being orphaned and abandoned in the shadows of compromise. Ooh, I don't know if y'all fit under that category or not. But how many know really that's not just the South Shore? No. That there are people all over the world that are looking for family, they're looking for food. No, they're looking for family, they're looking for fellowship, they're looking for authenticity, they're looking for something that's genuine, something that's real, nothing that's counterfeit, made up, pitiful, pathetic, and boring. People say, how do you describe this church? I don't know how to describe this place. Even Peter can't even figure me out, he told me yesterday. He said, I'm still trying to figure you out. I said, so is she. It's been 37 years of married, and we're with each other, and she can't figure me out yet. But my philosophy on everything is I'm not a biblical theologian, even though I have the degrees. But I'm more of a communicator. I'm a story. I got to get the word in your spirit, because who cares how much Greek and Hebrew we know? What really knows is, can I get this word active and alive in your spirit, so that when you leave this place, I got you for just 35 to 45 to 55 to 2 hours a week. He's like, shut up. That wasn't part of the deal. So here it is. Let's get going. Because we're on page 4 of 12. It's good stuff. So what keeps us on 12? So what keeps us from believing you can do all things? What keeps us from, you get paralyzed. Fear can paralyze you. When you're afraid, you avoid making the decisions that your soul knows you have to take. And you're terrified of the uncertainty. Because a lot of us, where we think that we're activating or we're walking in faith, we're more acting on security. That I'll do it if I know that the outcome is going to be in my favor. But when you're activated by faith, it really doesn't matter what the outcome is, because you know that God's in control of the outcome. Amen. How many think that we need to collectively move more in the direction of faith than the direction of fear. Amen. Because fear is nothing, it's going to do nothing more than breed failure every single time. Right. I've said it before. The only time that you become a failure is when you fall, you refuse to get up and try again. Yeah, okay. We all have issues that threaten to disable us and paralyze our faith. And if you find yourself paralyzed by regrets or painful circumstances from your past, I want you to understand this one thing. That while Satan specializes in tricking you into believing that you are disqualified from God's blessings, your Creator specializes in forgiving your sin and healing your places of pain. And God delights in forgiving, cleansing, and healing the deepest wounds and realigning them with His greatest purposes all over again. Because God is in the restoration business over and over and over. Number 8, you become a control freak. Oops. When you're afraid, you feel the need to micromanage everything. Get over yourself. Number 9, you muzzle yourself. When fear is operating, you avoid speaking up. Number 10, we'll leave it at that. You get sick. Fear isn't just an uncomfortable emotion that holds you back from following your dreams. It also triggers stress responses in your body that put you at risk of disease and makes it hard for your body to heal itself. When you're going through stress, how many of you ever, this is a get real moment. Whenever you've gone through stress, how many of you, you're gone through a stressful time and then your body just collapses? I had that. I remember, when was it? This past vulnerable time. We were on a cruise. It's a Christmas cruise with the family. And it's supposed to be, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. It was more like Scrooge. And I was going through, I don't know what I was going through, but it was weird. I mean, I was going so much anxiety. When they're out on the cruise, I'm in the closet. No, listen, I was in the closet of the cabin on the cruise. I mean, the cabin's small enough, much less the closet. And the closet wasn't even small enough. If I could have got myself into that closet and I was just crying all the time. I know you don't think I have an emotional side. But I was crying in there. They're all thinking, what happened to you? That I was going through this crazy period and this crazy time in my life. And it was just so much stress, and it didn't matter what I did. I was just an emotional basket case. I don't know if you guys have ever been there before, but it's really not a comfortable place of existence. Fear came in. And every time I had fear coming in, I just thought about dying. I was planning my own funeral before I ever died. I was saying, how do I want to die? Like, what? Stop this craziness. But when the devil starts messing with your brain, he starts messing with your thought process. He starts messing with your thought life. That's why I love the scripture that says, dwell and think on the things above, not on the things below. Think on what God, really wants to do in our life. So here we go. There's number 6. And then the second thing is failure. I can see this is going to be a week 2 message. So failure. So the fear of failure, it's also called adicophobia. We have it up there? Adicophobia. Here's a little girl. Adicophobia is when we allow that fear to stop us doing the things that God can move us forward to achieve our goals. Have you ever had adicophobia before in your life? But the wonderful thing about failure is that it's entirely up to us to decide how we look at adicophobia and how we're going to get out of adicophobia. And when we could choose to see failure as the end of the world or as proof of just how inadequate that we really are. And I think about some people who were dealing with adicophobia. One was Michael Jordan. Y'all remember Michael Jordan, the cigar-smoking golf man? Oh, he used to play basketball. Michael Jordan is widely considered as being one of the greatest basketball players of all time, and yet he was cut from his high school basketball team because his coach didn't think he had enough skill. Go figure. Warren Buffett. Y'all remember Warren Buffett? He created the Golden Corral Buffet? No, he did not do that. But Warren Buffett, one of the richest and most successful businessmen, was rejected by Harvard University. Well, I bet they're wishing they didn't do that now. Richard Branson, owner of Virgin Empire, was a high school dropout. And most of us will stumble and fall in life, and doors will get slammed in our faces, and we might make some bad decisions. But imagine Michael Jordan had given up on his dream to play basketball when he was cut from his team. Or imagine if Richard Branson had listened to the people who told him that he'd never do anything worthwhile without a high school diploma. We begin to think of the opportunities that we'll miss if we let failure stop us. How many have ever failed at something? Raise your hand. Matter of fact, raise both of them and your feet. That we failed 2 feet, you know. Failure can also teach us things about ourselves that we could never have learned otherwise. For instance, failure can help you discover how strong a person you are. Failing at something can help you discover your truest friends, or help you find, unexpected motivation to succeed. Try failing at stuff and then see friends unfriend you on Facebook. I thought you were my friend. Oh, you're only my friend for what I can give you. Oh, you're that kind of a friend. But aren't you glad that Jesus is a friend that does what? Sticks closer than a brother. I like you guys, but I'd really like to see you. I think it's so dark in here. I think it's dark. Focus. 2 things and we're done. And then we'll do the rest maybe next week. We're almost done. My gosh. Focus. Too many distractions. It's complicated. Pastor Bobby said you don't understand my circumstances. Listen to this. This will mess you up. The average human has an 8-second attention span less than a goldfish. So, there you go. And that was according to a 2015 study from Microsoft, and it's even worse now. That number has shrunk over the years due to our digital connectedness and the fact that the brain is always seeking out what's new and what's next, and it sounds like the church. Oops. What's next, Pastor Bobby? I've already seen the gold nuggets. I've seen the gems fall from the sky. I've seen the gold dust. I've seen angels. I've seen demons. What's next? Maybe just living a life would be nice. Okay. I don't know about y'all, but if ever there was anything to see, we've pretty much seen it. We've seen evangelists come and twinkle, twinkle, little star, and turn into, the gold man. And we know, we're talking about Joshua. We know Joshua personally, so we tease him all the time. But we've seen it when people show up and just gold just shows up everywhere. We've read the stories of a church who was in desperate need of finances, and they pulled their carpet open up like this, and there was a bunch of gold down there, and they scraped it up and paid off the church. Hey, there's some here. We've had people at Impact Church London, no lie, they're down on their knees looking in the cracks for gold. And we're thinking, we wouldn't do that. But people are looking everywhere but there. People come up and they're like, Bobby, do you have a word for me? Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Because if you don't listen to this part, it doesn't matter what I got to say. Yet we are like most humans, and we keep seeking after things that most people never find. And we don't want to just rely on the Word, we just want to rely on manifestations of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with all that. Man, it's so much fun. God, bring it here. Boy, that'll really draw a crowd for a week or two until it doesn't show up anymore. They're like, I've seen the gems. What's next? Maybe we'll bring the California Angels here to play baseball. I don't know. So there's always this area about focus. Proverbs 4:25 says, let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze be straight before you. Colossians 3:2. Set your mind on things that are above, not on the things that are earth. And I said earlier that if the devil can keep you busy, then he'll keep you out of the Word of God. And the last thing is frailty. And frailty just means I'm too weak, I'm too inexperienced, I'm too small, I'm uneducated, like myself. I'm easily intimidated, threatened, insignificant. And it all sounds like we're gonna stop here, and then we're gonna lead it into next week, where it all sounds like a small little shepherd boy sent out to do a big man's job. And we'll talk about that next week, where he was never intimidated by his fears and his failures and his lack of focus and his weakness. And it was just little David, who came out of little nowhere. And all of a sudden, he was called to do a big man's job. And God began to significantly use this guy. We'll talk about him next week because it's 12 o'clock. And, it's lunchtime. Laura says, keep preaching, get it over with. We'll have a brand new message next week. Well, really, maybe 10 minutes and I could be done, but I don't know. Can I have 10 minutes? I don't want you to send me an email. What? Huh? There's little kids here? Destiny, you can go. Just teasing. All right. We'll finish next week. Did you get something out of that? Maybe a little bit? You got to excuse me sometimes because, man, I get so wrapped up in this word and I'm studying all week long and getting stuff in, and it's hard to cram it in 30 minutes, and I'm like, But, you want to be sensitive and all that kind of good stuff. And that's the beauty of pastoring. There's always part 3. So next week we'll have part 3, and it won't be long at all. So you may be out of here in 20 minutes next week. And everybody said, hallelujah. So, you've got free reign to do worship a little bit longer next week. Hallelujah.
19 cards, I count every week.
I'm sorry?
19 cards, I count them every week.
19 cars.
Oh, 19 cars.
Yes.
Thank you, Tom.
Count them every week.
Laura counts people, Tom counts cars. Somebody else is counting the offering. So we're going to let everybody know what that faith offering was next week. And you know why? Because everything that came in, Impact Church London is going to match. Oh, I should have told you that earlier. There's that third offering coming. I don't have a problem with offerings, and some people do. And because I know for one thing, we don't get nothing of that. And you know who gets that? The city.
That's right.
The city gets it. I don't have a problem showing God's love in a real practical way. You wait till next year when we do Fam Cam or Carnival of Hope. Bridgewater's only free family fun festival. Leave your money at home. Where that whole thing is one big inflatable theme park. Free haircuts, manicures, pedicures, makeovers. Free barbecue. Man, we did, one place we did 5 pigs. One place we were part of an outreach that they did, there was 14,000 people and everybody got quarterly chicken for free.
Wow.
But then we got to preach. I'm not doing all that if I can't preach. So I'm going to do like a little 10-minute testimony. Somebody hadn't heard my testimony. But I'll give a 10-minute story. And I want to give people an opportunity to respond. We've seen upwards of 600 people give their life to Christ right out there in the parking lot and kneel in a hot parking lot in Toronto, Ontario. Come down from buildings like Billy Graham. They're all up there in Brampton. And I'm out there, we're giving the altar call. And I said, you may be up there in floor number 35, but I'll wait just I think work for Billy Graham. So here they come, walking down the high rises. I said, I'll wait for you. And they all come there. We're in a strong Muslim area. They all started coming down. How many know you just have to open up your mouth?
Yes.
Stop being so dang quiet. Well, I might offend them. I'd much rather than them get offended than he get offended. And you know, in this next little while, I don't know how old most of y'all are, but I'm 58, and I'm thinking, in my brain, because I'm a numbers freak, I'm thinking, okay, 68, 78. I know you've gone to 100. But I figure I might have 15 to 20 good years to do this. I can really care less what people think anymore. I'm going for it. I'm just going for souls. With or without, I'm just going for it. And what's where's Peter? The guy last night, you asked him, are you coming out on the 25th? And he said, probably not. Then I go, oh my God, no! I'm like, cool. I did my part. He did his part. All we're responsible to do is get people to make a decision. Our responsibility is to tell. They make a decision to decide. Can we not believe in faith? Now, some of you who've been around for a while, you guys, I don't know what 250 people will look like in here. I know what it looks like. I can't breathe. But last time I checked, we'll call them the founders. Y'all been praying for revival, and you've been praying for souls. people are coming. And people, not just people are coming who don't know Christ, people are coming who are our followers, and they want to lock arms with faith-based people, not fear-mongering people.
Amen.
Oh, get ready. Laura's talking about a sanctuary that seats 5,000. I'm like, that scares the boobies out of me. We only have 8,000 in the whole town. But hey, I'd much rather have someone who's on fire that has the faith of a mustard seed that let's just believe God for 5,000 instead of some doubt or powder or do without it. That says, oh, let's just believe God for 5. Come on. Let's all stand. Jesus, you're awesome. Jesus, you're amazing. Day and night, night and day. Let incense arise. Let our faith arise. Come on, Cheryl, sing that Destiny. Go up to Peter. Let's do that one more time. Richard, up and Tim. Jesus, Jesus. I want us to just let that be a declaration that we, as the praises go up, His power and His presence comes down. Let your praise be a throne that He can come and inhabit. Because He inhabits the what? The praises of His people. Are you His people? Are you part of that royal priesthood? So we praise Him. We don't worry about what our left and our right things and our front and our backward things. We're like, Jesus, Jesus. You're awesome and you're amazing. If you're visiting, God bless you. We love you. Thank you for coming. Be here next week if you can. Please, please, please don't forget the 25th on that Sunday morning and the launch. Let's do that. Let's do that song one more time as we begin to wrap up and eat those cupcakes outside because they are so good. I've had one beforehand. That's going to be the next communion is those cupcakes. Jesus. Come on.